I saw that with HealthKick Kung Fu that just this past week, I think it was on Friday, you had a sash ceremony or
Did.
something like that.
I
How'd that
did.
go?
That went fantastic. Normally for people training in Kung Fu, if they're very consistent, which means at least 3 times a week, usually more, it takes about 5 years to go from a white sash to a black sash. And all that means is you're really ready to learn. Like it takes 5 years in a sense, and this correlates to our Buddhist practice, right? To get the type of mind or the beginner's mind that's actually required to actually start learning. But it's a big deal when someone makes that commitment. So this was a young person's SASH test. So we had 4 kids between the ages of 8 and 12, and then we had 3 that were teenagers. So it was a big deal. It's a big deal when this happens, and it's a lot of time and effort on both the instructors at the school and the students. So it's a great celebration, and it's a very moving thing to see happen
And
over and
and
over again.
right, and if this is something that can take 5 years, this means that you've been getting to know these people for that amount of time. You see their growth and you see their commitment deepening and things like that. Um, how special? And does it kind of register with the people that are getting that sash changed? Did that transition? Does it kind of do you can see the emotional weight of the transition happening for them?
Yes, yes. 2 things happen. It's a very peak moment for young people, especially. It is for adults as well, but in a different way. So it's a very peak moment. But also over time, there's so much that happens during the course of the test because the test is 2 days and they stay overnight. And we kind of try to have some of the mystery of Zen be part of the test. So because that happens, the processing of everything that happened during the test often takes months, if not years, like all good Eastern practices do.
That marinating phase. Yeah. Wow.
Exactly. You think
Wow.
you understand something here, and in some ways you do from where you're at, right? But then over time and rumination and marination, then when you think back at it, you're like, oh, wow, I don't know if I ever understood that at all, you know? So that's what
Wow.
happens too for them.
I see. So it's like that moment in a celebratory sense happens, and then the outcome of that actual transition might come a little bit later on in time. Uh and is that what you found for yourself? I mean, because I know you've been doing this for the martial arts kung fu practice for a long time. Did that happen for you at a certain point when you really started to notice that when you started to show up and to do your martial arts, that one day you were like, "Oh, I kind of understand what drew me into this and why I do this."
Yeah, when I came into it, I mean, it was clear why I wanted self-defense. And then, of course, there were all these other gifts that opened up that I didn't expect. But oh yeah, it constantly happens to me. And even after 30 years, I look back at my teachers and some of the things they did with me, and I realize there's 2 things, the gratitude and the love. Like maybe at the time I was angry about what was happening. And then now when I look back at it, I realize what I was being taught or trying to be taught. And then you get a deep sense of gratitude and love for the teacher because they stuck with you when you were being very difficult. But that's one thing I really like about it too. It's constantly peeling the layers of the onion back. So you could be doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. And at different points in the timeline, you're getting different aspects of it revealed to you from your practice. So it's really beautiful and exciting at the same time. And you never know when that's going to happen.
And there's that amazing amount of trust, both from the student to the teacher and the teacher and the student, that like if I invest from a teacher's perspective, I suppose there's this, if I invest my time with this student because I know that there might be some rough areas here that need to get a little more polished or buffed out, but I know that there is something that's emerging from this student. They're ready for this next phase given these circumstances. And also too for the student to keep showing up when you're maybe getting critiqued in a way that you might not like, or
Right.
something like that, you're still trusting that the teacher has the best intentions. And it's also too, I mean, I think it's wonderful that you mentioned the word love within the martial arts environment, because
Hmm.
sometimes you think of martial arts as just being fists and staffs and bows and things like that. But uh, when you talk about that, I'm assuming it's between that kind of guiding love, that compassionate love that maybe you find within among colleagues that are studying martial arts, but also among the teacher-student relationship.
Correct. And that the people around you want the best for you and to want to see you fulfill your full human potential. And this is just one path of doing that. Just like Zen practice is a path of doing that. But these two are a bit intertwined. And so, like looking at Zen, what you were just saying about the trust that has to be there in a martial art practice between student and teacher, especially the student needs to know they're not going to be physically harmed. You know, you get dinged up in the practice, of course, that's by the nature of what we do. But there has to be a certain level of trust that the teacher is not putting you in an overly dangerous situation while you're learning. So our Zen protocols and our Zen way of being with each other helps guide that relationship. Right speech, right caring, right compassion, right loving kindness. So even though we're dealing with something that's from, like you said, the exterior is violent, it's combative, it brings up a lot of ideas of aggression, you still need these Zen principles in order for it to flower properly. So this is what I enjoy about the combination of the two.
And I saw on either it was the HealthKick Kung Fu website or the Warrior's Path Buddhist Academy. It might have been HealthKick, but I was seeing that there is historically, like looking at the Shaolin, the Songchan Shaolin style. I believe I hope I didn't
You're
mistake the
right.
way I said it. There is this understanding that uh, what Chan does, it brings I suppose it reflects the true essence, the true humanity of somebody, the true essence of nature within you. And
Yes.
martial arts more or less does the same thing, either in tandem or on its own, as its own practice. And just like in talking about like how we're peeling away those layers of the onion,
Hmm.
I was wondering what your personal experience was like, with that understanding of what Chan and what Kung Fu both do as a martial art, and how that has resonated with you as far as learning more about who you are, about what humanity is, what nature
Hmm.
is.
First, I want to preface that because some people viewing this might not know that Chan is the Chinese word for Zen. Okay. And then we use Zen in the United States because that's what really became prevalent in the 50s, 60s, 70s for our practice. But Chinese Chan dates back further, and that's what it's known in China as Chan. What I found, and this I think just learning how to defend myself, one of the most difficult things about that is we, as human beings, and human beings who think we're good people, let's say, which most people I believe really think they're good people, we like to cherry pick how we want humanity to be. So where we embrace the things that we find to be good, kind, generous, loving, and then the things that we find to be unappetizing, let's say, we keep pushing it away. We keep pushing it away. We keep pushing it away. In the sense that even us as a complete human being becomes bifurcated. Here's my good side, and here's my bad side. And we know our Zen practice tells us that we have to embrace all of it completely. And we can't pick and choose the things that we necessarily want to bring to the forefront because our practice tells us it all exists together as one. So martial art practice forces you to look at what we might consider the dark side of humanity on a daily basis because you're learning how to defend yourself against violence. So you're thinking about violence and the reasons people get violent and the reasons people act out in these ways all the time. Now we know, and this is the Shaolin perspective, we know that if we only look at that all the time, then we might become an extremely aggressive person that doesn't understand how to use it properly, right? So that's why there needs to be a balance in the training as well. But I do want to get off what your question was, is that it forced me to really look at all of humanity and not be afraid to look at that side, the violent side of humanity in others, bravely and courageously, but most importantly, to look at that part of myself and not deny that part of myself as I continue on this path. So I found that to be very helpful, and I found it to make it easier for me to exist in the world.
And when it comes to that that acknowledgement, I think that's a wonderful thing that that the practice, that combination of Chan, the Zen, and the martial arts, the Kung Fu coming together, help you embrace the oneness of the human experience, like the oneness in the sense of it not being bifurcated. Well, let me try one more time. Bifurcated.
Bifurcating. I might be
Sorry.
saying it wrong too. Don't feel
No,
bad.
no, you're very kind. You're very kind.
Someone will let us know.
I I split.
There we go.
There it is. um to have humanity just in these binaries, right? Where you're just kind of like you're either
Exactly.
good or you're bad. And when it comes to uh the embrace of the oneness of that, it's so wonderful that there is that quality, but like it takes a lot of courage, it takes a lot of bravery to acknowledge that you do in fact have that shadow, or whatever, however
Yes.
that might manifest. And it's great that there are these physical techniques, philosophical techniques, and practice techniques that come together that help you acknowledge that element. And when it comes to combativeness, um, there's something that might be a little disturbing for somebody who says, "Oh no, I'm peaceful. I'm a Buddhist. I'm a pacifist. I'm somebody that like doesn't want to inflict any danger or harm on anybody else. How could I possibly enter into a martial arts space?" I was just kind of curious, like how you would interact with that kind of a maybe not question, but just like that kind of a position where, well, Buddhism is about peace, and so to be in a space where people are doing throwing people down, or putting each other in binds, or
Mhm.
sparring and things like that, that feels incongruent with my practice. I was just curious what you might say.
Well, the physicality that you point to is just a practice path. So, what's the intention behind it? So, when you're in a practice space in most martial arts schools, you're not finding that there might be a competitive aspect to it depending on the school, but it doesn't necessarily mean there's malice behind it, that someone is intentionally trying to damage you so you can't walk out of the school. And of course, now that I say it like that, we know that's not the case because martial arts schools wouldn't be open if that was the intention. Um, the hardest thing to bring an adult to a Black Sash level is for them to tap into that part of their humanity that says they can hurt somebody. And we know in our Buddhist practice that in this moment right now, you and I here right now, we're a combination of variables that are happening only in this moment. And then each moment that continues on, those variables are changing, 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 changing. And you and I, by the end of this interview, will actually be two completely different people, even though we might feel we're the same. But even the influence we're going to have on each other is going to change the variables of who we are. So that applies also to martial art practice in the sense that if you say, I'm so peaceful, I can't do this because I would never do anything like this. My argument is you're a product of the variables that are happening right now. If those variables change, you don't know what you're capable of doing. So, can you explore that in your martial art practice?
Yeah, I think that there's and that's that shadow thing. If you're saying like, I no, I couldn't possibly. That's not me. It's like, well, part of that martial art practice is like knowing who you are. Like I guess it's plumbing that depth into seeing like what you are capable of. And there is something about humanity that has there's a reason why wars and fights and battles and all those things have uh been a part of the long run of human history. I mean, it happens in other animal species as well.
Mhm.
It's just part of, there is this quality to our nature that has that element to it. And so thank you for going into that and just kind of having it be martial arts being a space that is relatively safe, that is not there to endanger or to train somebody to go out and create more harm as much as possible. It's instead to like offer like a window and a space that is safe for you to make mistakes, but it's also safe for you to discover, you know, and then some of those discoveries might be a little unsettling. And then when it comes to like just approaching an emotion like anger, um, I feel like, you know, in a lot of movies, a lot of boxing movies, the protagonist will be going through a breakup while other things aren't going well in their life or something like that, and you'll just see him like going to town on a speed bag, you know, just kind of like doing that,
Yeah.
and then all that sort of thing. And they're bringing a lot of emotion to that part of um their training, and a lot of that anger, and you're watching that in a narrative sense. But in a real life sense, let's say, you know, yourself or a colleague is has an emotion like anger come up, can they bring that into the practice space and work on a bag or work on a sparring partner and uh, have that more or less like raw? Or does it feel like everything has to be tempered before they walk into that space or walk into an engagement with other or a bag or something like that?
Mhm. Yeah, no, it could be pretty raw. And I mean, even for myself, when I went into martial art practice, I had a lot of anger in me for various reasons. You know, individuals, situations, the world at large, you name it. I know most of your viewers are understand what I'm talking about. And it was a great way. Like we don't. Here's another thing, right? Zen is a physical practice, and we could tend to forget that, but it actually helps our mind and body unite in a very complete way. We don't realize that some of our thoughts and emotions embed themselves in the body. So the physical practice of, let's say, working on a bag or hitting pads is a great way of getting that embedded cellular anger out of your body, so that then there's a spaciousness in the human being for deeper practice. And you almost have to go through that. You know, there's comparative things like 12-step programs are similar, where you have to go through the work, right? To kind of get rid of feelings like guilt, anger, regret, so that you can move forward in your life. It would kind of a clean slate, for lack of a better word. So bringing that into practice is often necessary for people, but that's where a good teacher comes into play. Because the teacher, if the teacher is further in that timeline than the person walking through the door, they've gone through that and they understand that, and they could give the new student the appropriate task, let's say in class, and engagement with the other students that will help that student get to where they need to be, and will also protect the people around them, you know, without putting anyone at great risk. If you have a more advanced student in the class, this is a good student to work with the newer student that has anger, because the more advanced student might actually meet someone on the street that has anger, and now they could test what they might do in the appropriate fashion without harming the person who's very angry and without reacting with anger. So, you know, as we talked about variables, right? You see how all these different variables come into play depending on who actually walks in the room at any given time. But getting rid of that anger and working on the bag is great. But you don't want to bring that into your engagements with other people in class, you know. So it's really important someone's steering the boat properly.
Certainly. And thank you for also going through like just like what the guidance of a teacher can be for those that type of facilitating and recognizing somebody who may or may not be going through something, whether or not that person is open about it or not, but just kind of like understanding who and what who they might be best to work with, and who can best handle some of these more raw qualities, and who's been through it before, especially with that teacher having been someone that goes through um, the different stages of reflection that are needed for that. And on the physical embodiment thing, a note. You were talking. Martial arts is full of movement, physicality. Sometimes it can be quite dramatic, and sometimes it can
Mhm.
be quite theatrical,
Mhm.
and fast. And sometimes, and then going into some of the Tai Chi and the Qigong forms as well, but that are a little bit slower paced. But when it comes to the martial arts, just generally, especially Kung Fu, and the seated position within Zen, the Shinkantaza, uh, I was just wondering what kind of correlation you see between the two.
I'm so glad you asked that
Okay.
because I came to meditation relatively late because I couldn't sit still. And if I didn't go through my martial art training, there's no way I would have ever been able to do meditation, at least from the perspective of the timeline I went through, right? So I'm just going to tell you a little background first before I answer that. So I get into martial arts. As I said, I had a lot of pent up anger in me, which actually prevented me from sitting, but I didn't realize it at the time because I just can't sit still. You know what I mean. So I go through this process, and then one thing leads to another, and then I finally start training with a teacher who has a deeper practice, and he insisted that I do Tai Chi and Qigong. He insisted on it. He's like, you jump around too much, you throw your body around too much, you're hitting stuff too hard. I started martial arts at 32, which is considered late back then, 30 years ago. And he's like, you're going to break down your body. So you have to do some of the softer practices to maintain what you have. So I trusted him and I believed him, and it was torturous. Like every time I'd move slow in Tai Chi, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm going to die. Oh my God, I'm going to die. Oh my God, I'm going to die. And the Qigong was even worse because you're focusing on your breath. And I literally thought I was going to suffocate. So that went on for years until I got comfortable with it. And what that did is it prepared me for my sitting practice. So I finally hit a point where I knew I could sit. But if I didn't have all these other things before that, it wouldn't have happened. Okay, so jump ahead. When I started practicing at Ancient Dragon Zen Gate and they had the longer sashins and all this kind of stuff, which is what I wanted to be supported with other people doing these long sittings because it was still hard. I could sit, but it was still hard for me to do any kind of Shaolin monk intensive in the cave Bodhidharma sitting. We're all attracted to that. Come on. And I wanted to be able to do something like that. And I felt I needed some support. Ended up in Ancient Dragon. So the first time I did, and I didn't be overly enthusiastic or optimistic. I did a half day sitting first, and it made me realize right away the sitting meditation is the yin side of my martial art practice, meaning the martial art practice is yang or energetic, according to Chinese philosophy, energetic movement. And how sore you could get from energetic movement, right? The first time I did a half day sashin, I was just as sore from sitting still as I was from doing the other stuff. And that was mind blowing to me. Like it never occurred to me that it's just as hard for your body to hold a posture. People who do yoga, hatha yoga, they're probably going, that's right, Paula. But I didn't realize it up to that point that it was just the flip side of my Kung Fu practice as far as the physicality went.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, because you have to. I mean, when you sit zazen, there's a that full lotus position that should you be able to do that, you can do that, but also this like, uh, you're having your shoulders rest a certain way, having your back a certain way, breathing a certain way too, because like there's this
yeah.
encouragement to breathe from the lower part of your abdomen, and then too like just to maintain stillness, to like not scoot around all the time. It can make you it can make you a little it can certainly make you sore. Well, that's wonderful. I mean, I think like, I mean, it's so amazing to hear that you found you found Chan, you found Zen through uh a years long martial arts practice, but then there's this element too where you were doing qigong and tai chi, and that was like very deeply uncomfortable. It sounded like physically, because it created this kind of it seemed like it was uh incongruent with like just your energy level, or like
Mhm,
the pacing of your life. And
mhm,
then you do that for years, and then
mhm,
then you're able to sit. It's just amazing that you were able to commit to that, and that you were able to trust in that, and that also too that now here you are, you're someone that is very much involved with the Ancient Dragon Zen Gate Temple in Chicago, and you're the temple director and a practice leader. And I believe that recently, at least this year, I saw that you've been serving as Shuso at a few sessions, and it's become very meaningful for you. And I was wondering how your experience has been balancing your life as a trainer and as an owner, and like someone that's like very much involved within the martial arts community in Chicago, with while also being someone that's very involved with that
mhm.
other quality, that more still quality, and how both have been drawing you at this time. Like how does it feel to be this involved with Ancient Dragon Zen Gate at this time in your life?
Well, it's a blessing to be able to practice this deeply. And I'm sure everybody's kind of getting a sense of this as I'm talking. As far as martial arts goes, you have this whole I'm a child of the 60s, so I remember watching Kung Fu on TV about a Shaolin monk traveling the wild, wild west and fighting the good fight for people who can't fight for themselves. And of course, we're influenced by Bruce Lee. Um, so you have this mysticism around Shaolin Kung Fu, and then you find out Zen is a big part of it. So there's this whole temple life that, as Westerners, we're just so curious about. Like, what does that mean? And what does it mean to go to the monastery? But we're lay people, right? And we can't really do that. Or maybe we can, but you have to walk away from your whole life. Most of us can't do that. At Ancient Dragon, the feel of temple life is as much as a layperson can probably have. So, in that sense, I'm so grateful that I could experience this. Ancient Dragon is also part of the San Francisco Zen Center affiliated temples. So, I have literally been able to go and sit and do more intensive practice in the monasteries in California. So, that too is a blessing for me because I never thought that would be a possibility for me. Ordination as a lay priest is something I never thought in any way, shape, or form that any kind of ordination would be possible for me as someone who came in through Kung Fu. So, all of these things have been unexpected jewels. And considering, I got exposed to Buddhist practice at a relatively young age through the Eightfold Path. And not believing that this type of deep practice would be available for me to experience has just been very, very, um, it's been a treasure and meritorious, where there's this concept in Asian Buddhist circles about merit. And in America, we don't like to goal set and all this kind of stuff, but it's a way of practicing that really helps all living beings. So I feel like this immersion in such deep practice as a lay person is very meritorious for my practice and for other people. I don't know if that's somewhat of a circular answer.
No, it's wonderful. No, and thank you. I think that there's, um, I, I'm grateful to hear how appreciative you are of being in this position where, your martial arts, like we were talking about just earlier, is like you were very, you had this energy, and you had to the point where you couldn't quite sit, and now here you are being someone that is ordained and has sat in monasteries. I mean, like they really don't let you scoot around a whole lot on your cushion. So you've had that kind of growth, that kind of evolution, but you've also maintained the what connected you to it, that integrity of the form for martial arts and the form for Zen and Chan. And I think it's just a wonderful thing to hear, as that it's all remained and deepened deepens in its meaning for you. And yeah, it's pretty special too, because I think I saw on your YouTube channel that you've done like video tours of Green Gulch and maybe some other San Francisco Zen Center related centers and all of that. And what have your experiences been like traveling and visiting temples? Because I want to hear about anything that you've done in North America, but I definitely want to talk to you about your experience going to Shaolin as well.
Mhm. In North America, I went to Shaolin Temple first before I went to any monasteries in America, because I didn't really have a sitting practice at that point when I went to Shaolin. But connecting, now it's really kind of emotional, but connecting to Shaolin and being able to actually be in Damo's cave. And then because we did travel there with a Shaolin monk who had helped to build the temple up actually in its reconstruction through the late 80s, early 90s. We were able to do certain things, like we were able to have lunch with the monks that were there. You can observe their ritual chanting in the morning. We weren't the only ones, but not everybody can, like literally on temple grounds, wake up at 4:45 and go down there. So when I had that first experience, it felt like coming home. So it's very moving. Like everything about it felt very familiar to me. And that I had experienced it before. And it was very powerful. So then extrapolate. And that, of course, led to me really wanting to have a deeper type of monastic experience, sitting experience. And the problem I was having is working with the monk English was his second language, not even really. Chinese, he spoke as much English as I speak Chinese. So we could communicate for martial arts, but everything else. And as we know, any religious practice, there's a specificity to the language that even sometimes people who know the language can't actually translate, right? So we're hitting this wall. I'm trying to get more deeper Buddhist practice from him, and we couldn't get past communication barriers. So when I saw Ancient Dragon and that they were practicing Soto Zen, and I brought it up to him, the Shaolin monk I was training with, he's like, oh, yeah. Soto Zen, that's Saodong. That's us, that's Shaolin. We do Saodong. So he's like, go there. So this way I had an American teacher who could speak to the relevancy of Buddhist sutra study within our cultural context and could help me get past maybe some of my own personal hindrances in getting a deeper sitting practice, understanding temple practice. Okay, all of that. So my practice with Ancient Dragon then led me to the monastic practice in California. And that has been completely coming home, because I'm on my own home soil. I could immerse myself deeper into this practice because I understand it, because I can communicate, because there's a cultural relevancy to it. Some of the people around me are having the same kind of challenges, let's say, in practice. So, it's living the monk's life without actually living the monk's life. So, and I'm sure most of the people viewing this realize that from their own practice. Like we're very lucky, and we're trying to figure out in America how to do this, American Buddhism, but in many ways, we're very lucky with the practice opportunities that are available to us,
Certainly. And thank you for sharing such meaningful moments for you. I mean, just like to go all the way to China to visit the temple and to feel that coming home moment, and to hear how powerful that was is just, it's really inspiring. And then for you to also then come back after having conversations with your teacher, and to learn that something closer to home works for you with the Ancient Dragon Zen Gate. And then also then when you go visit monasteries in California, that you have a similar sense of homeness. And it's just wonderful that you feel that these spaces resonate with you in such a important way. And when did you start to realize that you wanted to have ordination? Like what inspired that kind of that that next step for you?
Yeah, this kind of goes back to the 70s watching Kung Fu, the TV show. Like to me, that life, that itinerant life of a monk, I'm like, God, that's so cool. You know, so the idea of being a monk was always there. But the more I learned about Buddhist practice, and these two things happened to me independently. My Buddhist practice started independent of Kung Fu, and then they slowly came together over time. So getting into Buddhism, and then learning more about Buddhism, and then finding out that there weren't really a lot of opportunities for women necessarily in Buddhism, and there's a whole another conversation about that. Obviously, it's changing a bit more now in I think most countries, not all of them, but realizing that this ideal I had in my mind of this Kung Fu monk really wasn't available to me as a female. Then but I knew it's something I would have liked to do. I just never thought the opportunity would be available, period. So even when I was at Shaolin, they have a women's temple there. And at one point there were more nuns, there. So we go to the women's temple and there's like 5 nuns there. And it's and I'm not denigrating Shaolin in any way, shape, or form, because they're trying to build up the whole complex, right? So there's a few there, and there's really nothing going on. But I have to show you this. Don't go away. You're gonna love this. So, like most of the deities and stuff, not Kuan Yin or Avalokitesvara, obviously, it was mostly a female, but that equates to like the Virgin Mary in our Christianity and stuff like that. So you have all these great like warrior deities or bodhisattvas and all this kind of stuff. And most of them are rendered in a male form. So we're touring the female temple, and I round a corner and I see this image.
Oh.
So that image is a deity called Jinnah Lo Wang, and it manifests as both male and female. So that was the first time I ever saw a deity with such fierceness rendered as a female. And I literally went, oh! So I took a photo of it, and it's all over everywhere I go. I have one of these up.
Oh, wow.
So
So
you could see this is like totally embedded in my psyche, right?
yeah.
So then I
Wow.
go to Ancient Dragon, and I'm there for a while, and I'm doing a sitting. And then for one of the sittings, there's someone sitting in the zendo with full robes on, ordained as a priest, and it's a female. And I went, oh! And it was our guiding teacher, Hogetsu, that was sitting there. But at that time, she wasn't our guiding teacher. She was just a practitioner there, and actually one of the founders of Ancient Dragon. And I didn't know it. But I was like, oh, I want to do that. So that's how it started.
Wow. Is there a just curious, like if there's a Sanskrit or a Japanese name for the deity that you saw in the temple? Just because I don't know if there's a correlation to something else, or if that's unique to the Shaolin practice of martial arts, that god that's in there.
My understanding, this one is unique to Shaolin. And we know the cook is Tenzo. So it was someone who was a Tenzo, that's the Japanese word for temple cook, that defended the temple against a band of marauders that manifested into this deity and fought off a band of marauders with a staff.
Wow.
So
That's so cool. Oh,
I
wow.
know,
What?
it's so great, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Well, also too, I mean, something so special about it is like, that's an image that you carry with you that you have up wherever you are. And there's something very inspiring too about you, just like you had that sense of homecoming when you were in Shaolin. And then there you are feeling kind of uh like you have this aspirational connection, moved, inspiring moment when you see that image. And then there you are in Ancient Dragon Zen Gate, and you see somebody that that shows you the possibility that it's right there, that you can have that fierceness, that you can have that representation, that accessibility. It's right there. And it's just wonderful. It's a really wonderful thing. And then too, when it comes to Ancient Dragon Zen Gate, I saw on the website that there's really, it's a really, by the way, it's just a really wonderful website. It's such a great resource. It has teachings and archive dharma talks and all these different things that kind of help you get set up. It seems like it really, and I've seen some pictures of the space. It just really does seem like a very thorough, accessible, open space. So I'm just really grateful for the website just for offering so much. But one thing that was really helpful too was breaking down both dragon and gate, because not every Zen temple has that in their names. And there's the gate quality, which is that there's all these different entries into practice. There's always entries into awakening that are possible. And then the dragon element was this acknowledgement of um, the place of the dragon within uh, the lore of the roots of what Chan and Zen have, which is like these dragons are the guardians of wisdom and are the embodiments of truth itself. And they can take all kinds of forms. They can manifest in all different sorts of ways.
Mhm.
Did that do anything for you when it comes to like the your its appeal to you, like Ancient Dragon Zen Gate? Did the notion of the dragon have any draw for you?
Um, not not necessarily consciously, like, okay, I'm gonna go there because that's what it's called, but it made me feel more welcome because of what it was called. Because the dragon does have, there's a couple of components across, like you said, across Chinese culture. So there's the chi component, like the dragon is also similar of internal energy, the fierceness, the ability of the dragon to morph into all kinds of different types of beings, and the fact that I'm a martial artist. So I felt that I wouldn't necessarily be um, rejected or looked down upon with a name like that walking into that place. It seemed more all encompassing to me. And not that I would anywhere, but sometimes, sometimes even in China today, um, different Buddhist groups have a bias against martial arts being part of Zen practice because of the very things you brought up in the beginning. It's fighting, it's looking at violence, it's, all this kind of stuff. And it's just there. Not all of them, of course, but some of them can. So you never really know. But I felt pretty confident with a name like that. And looking at the background at that time, um, still our senior Dharma teacher, Taigen De Enlighten, he was the founding teacher at Ancient Dragon. He was still there actively um, shaping the sangha, and he's still very much involved in our place. And so he has a very open-minded, all-encompassing view of the Dharma as well. So I always felt pretty welcome. But I love the name, and he chose the name. So I
Oh, that's
want to
great.
give him a shout out for that. I thought it was
Yes.
kind of cool. Yeah.
No, and it gives a certain weight to the way that it kind of bounces off the website, or the way that it bounces off, just like the name itself just has like a certain uh energy to it, which is very it draws you in for sure. And then when it comes to like the martial arts that you have this martial arts background, and there you are now operating within a temple director, practice leader capacity at Ancient Dragon Zen Gate. D- Have you, when you talk to people that within the sangha, did you some of them offer some kind of questions or things about your martial arts practice, and have you kind of inspired some people to kind of incorporate a little bit more of that into their life, and just curious, like what discussions have been like around your martial arts practice?
Yeah. Some yes, but on the whole, I wouldn't say there's a lot of conversation around it. And people tend to stay in their lanes, if you know what I mean. So people that are attracted to primarily a sitting practice tend not to want martial arts. And then people who are attracted to martial arts tend not to want the sitting practice necessarily. But there is a little bit of crossover. So every now and then I'll have a Zen person start at the martial arts school. And every now and then I'll have a Kung Fu student get curious about sitting meditation and or qigong and tai chi. Um, but I'd say maybe it's 5% on
Mm,
both sides. And every now and then people will ask me a little bit about it, but I'd say most of the time, and if they do, they're part of that 5%. You know what I mean? Most
yeah.
people aren't that curious about either or.
Yeah. Well, it's so cool that you are a bridge though. Like you are someone that's 100%.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm
you're
trying, you know.
I think it's wonderful. I think it's great. Uh, well, and then I wanted to. This is like a slight change of gears here, but it's just something that thought was very striking that I wanted to suss out just a little bit. And this is talking about the Warriors Path Buddhist Academy. This is something that you founded, that you serve as president for. And this is something that Warriors Path Buddhist Academy supports the practice of Shaolin Kung Fu, Qigong, and Zen, and meditation for all. And there's this component, I think I saw on the website, but it is most Warriors Path Buddhist Academy programs are offered at no cost to participants. And I don't know if that's still the case, always the case, but there is a scholarship element to it. I was just curious about what that how important that was for the Warriors Path Buddhist Academy, and what your experience has been like founding that and working with people in that capacity.
Mhm. Yeah, it's definitely a passion project of mine, and admittedly selfish because I just want to find more people like me that are curious about both and want to integrate both of them into a regular practice. Um, Part of the reason it was important for it to be offered without barriers is oftentimes, like as you can imagine, there's a lot of time required to do both. And we do live in this secular world that has many demands on our time. And unfortunately, people who might not have a full time job or regular employment have the time to devote to this kind of practice. So I wanted to make sure that people like that would be able to avail themselves of it. And that's the irony of it. Like if you have the time, you don't have the money. And then if you have the money, you don't have the time. So I was trying to solve for that kind of problem with various degrees of success, you know.
Mhm, mhm. Well, it's a wonderful it's a service that you provide in that sense, and just being able to provide that the three disciplines for people to have the martial arts quality, the qigong, and the Zen, and then meditation as well, all being part of that with a high threshold for accessibility. It's just wonderful, and it's something for all ages, ethnicities, religious backgrounds, for everyone to participate in. I just think it's a wonderful thing that, maybe it's a passion project, maybe it's selfish, maybe maybe it's just for you, but like I don't know, it feels like it really is for those that are interested. So I appreciate you offering that space for people to explore that. And then I just had two other questions here that are a little bit more about promotion and advice. But the promotion end of it, I just wanted to see if there's anything that you wanted to uh, guide some eyes and ears on as far as things that you're working on, whether it's an upcoming event, or maybe you're writing something, anything that you want to get people to know about a little bit more, and and it also can be something that you've heard about that you also want to bring people towards as well. And I'll do a little bit of promotion for you just real quick, but there's the Ancient Dragon Zen Gate Temple, which is in Chicago. Coming up soon, you have there's a Seijiki ceremony, Nourishing the Hungry Ghost, that happens on Sunday, October 26th. There's also a upcoming 5-day session celebrating Rohatsu, the commemoration of Buddha's awakening. That's happening from December 3rd to December 7th. And like I was mentioning before, the website www.ancientdragon.org has a lot of great resources like Taigen Dan Layton's teachings and Dharma podcast library, and book recommendations. It's really wonderful. And then there's HealthKick Kung Fu, which is healthkickkungfu.com. You offer classes for adults and teens and kids, and qigong classes. It's a resource for those things, and as well as what we mentioned before, Warriors Path Buddhist Academy. That's warriorspathacademy.org, and where you can have the Shaolin monk training accessible via scholarship and otherwise. So I just wanted to offer those as well. But if there's anything else that you'd like to promote.
Vincent, that's enough.
Well, I wanted to I wanted to make sure I got to everything because there's so many wonderful things that you're a part of, that you're working with, and things that are coming up, especially with Ancient Dragon Zen Gate. So I just wanted to I
No,
want to
thank you so much.
make it
That's so
available.
generous of you.
Oh, good, good. Okay, great. And then as far as the advice chunk of it goes, do you have any advice for somebody that is walking the Buddhist path that you would have wanted to have heard earlier on in your journey?
Um, Remember that difficulty is part of the training, but also excruciating pain or something that doesn't feel right means it probably isn't right. And don't be afraid to keep exploring. But difficulty is part of the path. So some difficulty is to be expected. It's not supposed to be a bed of roses all the time. And talk to a lot of people in practice, just like you're doing with this podcast and YouTube channel. I find it so helpful to talk to different people and find out their path of practice so that I don't necessarily have to feel like an island coming from a martial art background, let's say, and maybe no one else in the room is, you know what, probably someone else in the room had come from that background or still is doing it. They're just not saying it. So make sure you talk to a lot of people and keep exploring.
Paula, thank you so much for speaking with me. This is
Thank
such
you.
a treat, and I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me and to go over those meaningful moments for you, and it's very inspiring. I mean, especially just like that invitation to look inward and to embrace that oneness of yourself through physicality and through uh those like shadow elements. Maybe within your shadow there might be some combative qualities, there might be some anger things, but to offer a resource like martial arts to work through that is such a wonderful thing. So I appreciate you offering so much within the spaces where you are in Chicago, but also to just you sharing with me, because it certainly is an inspiration. So thank you very much.
Thank you.